life is good. And rain, sleet, or snow. Is that really appropriate for Texas, though? Rain, sleet, or snow? I mean, it never sleets and snows hardly.
No, it doesn't.
But
it
definitely
happen.
rains. It definitely rains.
Yes.
We're a rainy climate, especially this time of year. Man, it's the storm chasers season. It's the insurance season. It's big time. I think I got even a message this morning that said, Dr. Chapa, it's time to renew your flood insurance. I'm glad that I had it paid
Convenient.
up.
Convenient. Yeah. Are you a storm chaser? I could see in another life you being a storm chaser.
I think I'm more of I like to watch the Discovery Channel version of storm chasing. I don't know. I love the idea of storms because I like that eerie kind of moment right as it's coming in, the uncertainty. Is it really going to happen? The wind blowing. But no, I'm not really much of a that kind of adventure guy. I'm not. I would rather remain safe.
Yeah. So we can't control the weather. That there's nothing we can do to control the weather. You just kind of got to roll with it. What about your body? Because sometimes people feel that way as well. Like, I can't control what happens to my body.
Well, see, that is where I'm absolutely a proponent of making a change. I come in and I see oftentimes people have that hopeless kind of mindset. They've tried this, they've tried that, they've done whatever they've done, and they still are dealing with symptom patterns that they were not genetically born with. And some people legitimately have, major health crises, and they just can't seem to get traction. But we were just talking at a clinical event this past weekend, and one of the things that we know is if there's two versions of you, and let's say that you've had multiple surgeries and you've had some organs removed and you've got multiple diagnoses and your body's really struggling, you have two choices. You keep doing whatever you did to get in the boat that got you what the result you had, or you start making change. Now, granted, the change that you start making may only slow down the progression of the decline, slippery slope that you're on, and you may never be fully, what you could have been because you had these permanent surgeries or these organs removed. But what if you could slow down the degeneration process? What if you could slow down inflammation? What if you could slow down the symptoms that you were struggling with by your own personal choices? And that is one of the things that we've got to switch on for people is the idea that what they got right now is a product of what they've been doing, but what they get to do is to make a choice today. That's why the oak tree analogy is so powerful. Like, when's the best time to plant an oak tree?
It would be 30 years ago.
That's correct.
So it'd be big now.
It would be huge,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd all have everything put together. But the reality is, when's the next best time to plant the oak tree?
You got to start today, sometime.
Yeah. And so the challenge with lifestyle modifications, and especially like at the beginning of COVID, it was easy to buy into the propaganda and the hysteria and the worry and the concern and the uncertainties of the world and go buy the famine foods, the junk foods, the carbs, the refined sugars, the additives, the alcohols, the processed food to get ready for famine. Except that once we realize that famine is going to turn into chronicity, chronic, time-based issue, we have to go back to, okay, well, we still have food, options that are healthy. We still need to recognize that our body needs fuel to function like it's supposed to. So what are we going to do today to make a choice in making our bodies live better, be better, stay better through food? And that's what I made a choice and wound up losing, 17 to 20 pounds during COVID instead of gaining it. And so I made lifestyle changes, major ones. And because I wanted people to see an opportunity that they could, amongst the crazy and the crisis, that they could find a silver lining and control something. The only thing you can really control is your own decisions, your own choices, your own actions, your own attitude, your own willingness to continue the game that you're playing. Yes, it's easy to, say you want to do it, but it's also easy to just not do it.
That's the easiest thing is to do nothing. Yeah.
And that's the problem is most people choose to just do nothing and say, oh, well, I got this excuse or I got this reason, and I'm just going to put my head in the sand and not worry about it right now. And then all of a sudden, they had made all this headway. And I saw a patient one time, he had worked so hard. He lost 120 pounds and over the course of, a year and a half. And then, once COVID began, he's gained 22 pounds back of his loss. And so he's like, I got to get back to it. So he starts getting back to it, but it's for some reason the weight stuck. Well, we had to sit down and go through the history and figure out what stones are unturned that haven't been turned over. And one of the things we discovered was he hadn't had a bowel movement in 3 days. And it's like every third or fourth day he's having a bowel movement. Well, guys, if your exit channel is clogged up and blocked up, your liver can't dump into an already toxic bowel. Your number one elimination strategy is to eliminate through the bowel. Every morning, first thing in the morning, within 10 to 15 minutes of being up. If you don't have that experience, then your body is delayed in what it's supposed to be doing. And if you think about it, it makes sense that the body has, biological clocks associated with, times of day and most energy activation when the systems are on a what we call a high, powered system, a high powered function. So, like, for example, the liver, one of my favorite discussion topics, has 600 different jobs in the body, and it's most active between 1 and 3 in the morning as a chemical factory getting things prepared for the next day and cleaning up things from the previous day. And then first thing in the morning, you have this big release when your bowels are most active between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. Well, wow. So if you're not having good bowel flow in that time window, your body's delayed in its ability to eliminate waste, and you're holding on to trash and toxins. That's like carrying around 55 extra pounds on your back. Sooner or later, that'd get annoying, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so chemicals and toxins build up in the body, and that bioaccumulated waste is exactly what we kind of want to be talking about. Like, not only do we have to be mindful of the toxins in our environment, the toxins in our food, we have to recognize that the systems of the body have to be able to handle all that stuff.
So what's considered a toxin?
Well, by definition, a toxin is anything that your body cannot use. So simply, Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center always wants people to kind of understand the sources of these toxins and where this stuff's coming from. For example, in our environment today, 3.5, I believe, billion pounds of chemicals are released in the U.S. Since 2016 stat. Pharmaceuticals are found in our drinking water. I mean, water is such an important piece of the puzzle. And we're allowing our drinking water to be infiltrated with billions of pounds of sediment, or the air is contaminated. Indoor air right now, is the best time. Well, maybe not today, but in general, whenever it is a windy day, and open those windows, man, on the front and the back of your house. Open your doors and air out your house. I mean, because many people have been cooped up in their homes, and indoor air is statistically more contaminated and more polluted than outdoor air, even though outdoor air is definitely contaminated. So, I mean, wow, people don't know that their working environment might actually be air risk in the form of toxins. So we've got to be looking at that. So, currently 80,000 chemicals are used in the U.S., and many have not been thoroughly tested. I mean, that's kind of scary.
Just like a little bit tested?
Yeah,
like not like thoroughly, slightly tested?
Yeah, it's like it's
through.
not bad enough that it's going to like obviously kill you, but it might, cause some level of mutation in genetic, engineering in your body's cells to function like they're supposed to over time, and then you degenerate too quickly. We call that accelerated aging. So, toxins are all around us, the endocrine disruptors. So endocrine meaning hormonal system. Your hormonal system presents, or these disruptors are present in plastics. I mean, what's not stored in plastic today? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything that people buy is in plastic. We're constantly wrapping things in cellophanes, and we throw hot things in a plastic Tupperware deal that leaks off BPA, these different known cancer-causing agents in plastics.
We drink our water out of it.
We drink our water out of plastic. And do we really know? I hope that plastic that you're buying is a helpful plastic. But, at the end of the day, do you realize that what if that plastic bottle of water was stored in a hot, warehouse, and by the time it gets to you, it's in a refrigerated or cooler environment? But, man, what if it was in that warehouse for 6 months and the plastic began to leach into the water, and now you're sitting there drinking these waters, and it's causing your hormonal problems, or it's causing your prostate problems if you're a male, or it's causing, some sort of – I had this little kid come in, and he had this big cherry hemangioma on his cheek, popped up. And little kids shouldn't have red dots on their body. Neither should, adults. But, typically if you evaluate yourself and you look over and you see, oh, that's a freckle, that's a mole. What's that little red dot? Those red dots are estrogen dominant sites, meaning your body is carrying excess estrogen, and that estrogen is disrupting your hormones. Because these are fake estrogens. They literally sit in a keyhole. You can't stick the right key in and activate the tissue to do a job. Now all of a sudden it's stuck. And so that estrogen build up begins to disrupt the cell's ability to work with the nervous system's commands. That leads to a potential problem. Well, we got these endocrine disruptors in metal cans. Well, everybody's trying to store up food right now, or they're buying prep foods for different storms or different events going on. Metal cans can oftentimes leak into our food.
So like Coke? I mean like a metal can of Coke, or what are you talking about?
Sure, metal can of Coke, but it could be like a
tuna can.
A tuna. It could be maybe a soup can, or some of these can-based vegetables. And look, if we are in a famine, a true blue famine, I'd be eating canned food as well. They have like a 3-year shelf life. You know what I mean? But if I could avoid it, I'm going to be eating. I wouldn't be eating them. If I could eat fresh and local, I'm doing that. Organic, fresh, local. That's what I want. That's the Dr Chapa way, right? But if we have to go, what if we have to go frozen organic? Okay, I'll take that too. What if I have to go fresh food and then conventional next in line? What if I have to go frozen conventional? That's next in line. And then I try to avoid the canned foods because, we know toxins are all around us. We have to be looking at ways to limit our exposure, just like recognizing what I call the crap foods, the carbs, the refined sugars, the additives, the alcohols, the processed foods, CRAP. We've got to get that out of our diet. We have to start recognizing when we eat make-believe food, it's going to cause you to have make-believe health. And these are choices that you can make, but it comes down to education. One of my favorite things about Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center is we educate. We educate regularly. Tonight, we have a big open house for our, a Zerona 6 fat-burning laser. It's got 6 different heads. It's 17.5 milliwatts of power, 635 nanometers of wavelength, and it disrupts the cell membrane and causes toxins, cholesterol, and triglycerides to be released from the tissue. It's safe, no downtime. It's very effective. People are losing between up to 6.5 or 6.33 inches in as little as 6 weeks. And it's just letting the laser do the work. Non-invasive, non-surgical, no heat, no downtime. It's completely restful and peaceful and enjoyable. And the laser starts working within 3 to 4 minutes, and you're under this device for 40 minutes. And then we see change over for every 7 days that you're under a laser treatment. And so we're going to be hosting an open house to kind of just display how cool this machine is, because it's an adjunct to what I do, non-surgery, non-drug, and helping break these bonds that the body has built with toxin.
Who's invited, and what time does it start? Where is it at again?
It's at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, It's at 815 East Main Street. Call 281-554-8600. And it will be there tonight from 6 to whenever people leave. So we're excited about people being a part of that. And so we welcome you to come out. There's going to be, people that come out, they'll get a coupon for 10% off a purchase order in our office. And so we're excited to offer that. We got just a lot of cool giveaways we're going to have out there tonight. It's going to be like a party. And we're going to have it really, really big and really exciting. And, of course, this weather always decides that it's going to try to disrupt us. But guess what? We're going to detox on. We're going to carry on. We're going to move on with this event because, right now we don't see it as anything more than just a rainstorm that, Texans are very familiar with.
Well, yeah, for us it really is because there's like these bands. I guess they're coming in, so it's like heavy rains off and on for the next couple days was the original thing, which I think, there's been some flooding, and that's unfortunate. But instead of it being like a hurricane and getting the wind and everything else, we're really familiar with the water around these parts. So just be safe.
Yeah, be safe, be mindful, and I'm sorry if you're in a low area and you've got whacked already. I mean, it's really, me and my family, we're praying, that nobody have to suffer any more this year with any other tragedy, of change.
Right. Yeah.
And I was picking on a lot of my patients yesterday. I said, all right, let's go to the window and everybody blow really hard. We got to blow this thing through because we don't have time for this, man. Yeah, life has been too crazy. I mean, it's already September 22nd. And I mean, I'm just like, where is the year going? And wow. And, God bless everybody. Guys, we've made it 9 months, 22 days. And we're going to, carry on. The sun keeps coming up. The sun keeps going down. And the Lord is on the throne. And we're going to make it, and we're okay. And I think that's one of the things that we always have to be reminded of, because I still have patients coming in with, PTSD type symptomatology around the fact that they're lonely, they're hopeless, they're wondering when this stinking COVID thing's going to end, and this, what's going on really, what facts can we really build off of? And, by the way, I'm stressed and I'm lonely and I'm stressed and I'm more lonely and I can't camaraderie with my team anymore. You know what I mean? And this is what I want people to realize is it's not just you. Like everybody's going through it. And I mean, at some level, I mean, I had to go through it. There was a time I was easily angered by this thing that we're all dealing with because the information is so obscure. But we have to make sure that every conclusion we come to is our own conclusion that's prayerfully sought out, factually sought out, and respectfully, honored, by your own convictions. I mean, God gave you a brain and expects you to use it. That's how my dad used to put it. You know what I mean? And so when we're going through the challenges of life, just remember, it's more fun to find people that are trying to just make the best of it and move on and not get caught up in all the crazy of it. And if you are focused too much on a lot of the media stuff, it's just seemingly a bit negative. But I sure love KHEA Radio because we're a positive radio station here and give people the hope they need that, today's a good day.
That is correct. It's true. So right now it's 9:22. This is KHEARadio.com, 99.5 FM. This is Kickstart. My name's Gardy. This is Dr. Aaron Chapa with Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center in League City, Texas. If you're watching on social media, go ahead and hit the share button. Feel free to ask some questions. If you're listening on 99.5 FM, the KHEA radio app, which is free, or some other platform of podcast, going back and listening, thank you for taking the time to tune in. And you can also share this out. So right now we're talking about chemicals, the body, and detox. So we also described like the definition of a toxin. What are some chemicals that we have that are toxins in our body? So chemicals that the body counts as toxins. And I already know we talked about some of these, but I'm looking at one and pesticide is listed.
Yeah. So, people don't, I have several patients that they can, now we know that every time the pest man comes, we have a protocol to help them. We have homeopathics to help get rid of the different types of chemicals exposed that are found in these pesticides.
So like the mosquito man comes in, and sometimes where I'm like thankful and praying, but like, is that a pesticide?
Well, that is definitely, it's an insecticide pesticide. And I remember as a kid, we would, chase down the mosquito man as long as we could stand it, right? Sucking in that stuff.
Yeah.
Might be some of my problems. It's an answer to a different question. But the reality is pesticides and fungicides and insecticides are definitely chemicals that we are exposed to, not just environmentally, not just the guy going down the road or the bug man showing up to your house. So, this is also, they spray these different types of insecticides and fungicides and pesticides on the cropland. And these, and now our food becomes contaminated. The soils become contaminated. Agriculturally speaking, we have dirty soil. Now you're going to have a dirty crop, and this damages the cell membranes, and the damage to the cell membranes can disrupt the neurological aspect of brain tissue. And now you have a communication glitch from the master brain down through the body, and now you're getting mismanagement communication. So the cells don't know exactly when to do their job and how to do their job effectively well, because the brain is not giving that those signs and symptoms. And of course, you can get respiratory diseases whenever you breathe in a lot of these different types of pesticides, insecticides, or fungicides, and it can obviously disrupt or create an area where people don't realize that your body stores toxins in fat cells. It stores toxins in brain tissue, and it stores toxins in the joints. If your body can't get rid of something that it can't use because of exit channel blockage, say you're not having a bowel movement every day, or you've got kidney issues, or your body will try to find and use a secondary exit channel like your lungs. So we expel trash out of our lungs. So now you start getting respiratory signs and symptoms. Asthma, wheezing, air hunger, excessive yawning. So if you have a lot of these symptoms, you may be very sensitive to chemicals in the air, but you may very well be sensitive to chemicals that you're consuming and not realize that when you consume these foods are contributing to your body's inability to eliminate waste, and then it's backing up into the lungs, and now your body's trying to breathe and do its respiratory work and navigate around these little areas of toxin that are built up in the lung tissue. And that's discomforting. Not being able to breathe is a very scary neural factor. But what happens if it gets stuck in the phase prior? So what happens is, like, if your number one exit channel is blocked up, then your liver has to slow down metabolism. So now your body can't even process its environment that it's working in very quickly. It's like trudging through mud. So now things begin to back up in the lymphatics. You don't want things to back up in the lymphatics, or you might start developing lymphomas, or you might start developing, lymphatic conditions, leukemias, and then what happens is, if the lymphatics aren't able to, say, find a secondary exit strategy, say your sinuses, so push stuff out your ears, push stuff out your eyes, push stuff out your nose. Oh, what do they call those guys? An ENT. You go to see an ENT for those symptoms. But the ENT is focused too much on giving you a pill for an ill for the signs and symptoms in the high lymph system, everything from the neck up. But really, the source is downstream. The source is in the inability of the liver to keep up with those toxins, those insecticides, fungicides, and pesticides. And so whenever we see these exit strategies start getting used, you start seeing symptoms. That's why you go see a pulmonologist if you have the asthma, wheezing, air hunger. But we're trying to help people see, hey, look, before you start going and throwing drugs at it, let's go find the underlying cause. Maybe you're very sensitive to your environment because your liver is slow, your bowels are slow, your kidneys are slow, and we can enhance that through food-based nutrition. We can build a clinical nutrition program through decreasing inflammation through the foods that you are consuming. We can enhance your vitamin, mineral, essential fatty acid capacity, which de-inflames your body, that helps your body eliminate trash out of its normal, appropriate channels more effectively. Because the next step would be storage. And if your body stores these things in the breast tissue, for example, because it's made of mostly fat, then you could be a victim of breast cancer. And what if a lot of these cancers that people are developing are simply toxins that could have easily been eliminated had we been teaching detox early on in their life, or had them enrolling in a detox program before we enroll them in something aggressive like, biopsies and chemo and radiation and surgeries and all the different things. Now, again, I get it. You got to go down that road if that's all you know. But what if there's a better way? What if we start eliminating and removing your exposure to some of these things? Where you saying, well, I can't stop breathing. I still got to breathe the, 4 point, what was it? What did I say? Several billion pounds of chemical in the air. But we can definitely limit the damage these toxins are having in your body through appropriate elimination pathway and getting your body to remove stuff and eliminate stuff and then push your body into a detox. Well, it will go find old stuff and get that old paperwork cleaned up. And that's a pretty cool thing.
I was going to ask, these chemicals and toxins, they're everywhere. How realistic is it to avoid them, or can you just not avoid them, and that's why it's important to detox?
Both. I think that there are things we can avoid. I think we have a tendency to overuse chemicals in our home. We over-sanitize. We we overuse pesticides around the house. I mean, I think that, we got to use some of these more natural approaches, and there's companies that are more natural, so to speak, in their pesticide work that have less fumes, because a lot of times these fumes you're breathing these things in, and sometimes you delay instead of being so regimented and getting your house cleaned up. You gotta start looking at the symptoms. You gotta start listening. Is the body throwing off symptom patterns? Are you having brain fog? Are you having thyroid conditions? Are you having fibromyalgia, where you have a syndrome of pains in your body, and your body's constantly dealing with an ailment, so to speak, each and every day? And when you start finding that you have these things, you have to bring into the conversation, could it be something that is in my environment that isn't necessarily visible? Could it be a chemical? But what if it's just the preservatives on the food? When we look at preservatives like the BHT, BPAs, we look at the propylene glycols. When we look at sodium nitrates, that we look at the MSGs, the artificial ingredients. These things cause all kinds of liver stress. And these things are on your label. When you pick up a package of food that you actually consume, you can look and see, whoa, there's a lot of excitotoxins. And excitotoxins, anything that pushes overdrive on your neurological cells, and they burn up too quickly, and we burn out neurons, and that's never a good thing. We want to make sure that we're evaluating the things that we're eating. That's some of what these cans and plastics and things have in them. They have these other little things that can leak into your food or drink that can create a problem. So I kind of I steer towards more your stainless steel or glass items. When I'm in the car, it's definitely stainless steel. Whenever I'm in the at the house, I mean, I'm typically drinking out of glass, and I cook in glass. I don't, we don't use a microwave. We throw things on a stovetop. We don't use the non-stick. We use like a stainless steel, double ply, whatever, cookware, and we learn how to cook, over our stove using, heat as our friend. And it doesn't take that much longer. You just got to look. You just got to pay a little bit more attention to it. It's not simply just push go and walk away. But that's okay, because now I know I'm not mutating my food, and I'm not disrupting the molecular structure of the good food that I was trying to eat.
You said something earlier about the toxins going and storing in like fat tissue. Is that something that happens? I never really thought about that before. Do certain toxins try and store themselves in specific places?
Whether it's the toxins have an affinity to a certain place, or if it's or just in general your body's inability to do the chemical work to convert it into something that you can pee out, sweat out, breathe out, or poop out. Your body has a general chink in the armor somewhere, and wherever that weak point is in your biology, in your physiology, is typically what breaks down first. So if you've got a family history, and this is where family history can be of value in showing you the weak link. So like if you know that breast cancers run in your family for the females out there, or cervical cancer runs in your family, or you have fibroids, or you have uterine cyst, or you have ovarian cyst, or whatever the symptom is, you know that's in the upline. Somewhere mom, dad, or mom, grandma had these types of challenges. And now you know that if you follow the recipe they followed, or if you don't pay attention to the fact that that could be you in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, all of a sudden you've got the exact same thing they got, because most people don't do what they want to do. They do what they know how to do. So they eat the same food mom and dad taught them to eat. They follow the same lifestyle patterns. They stress the same. They go to bed late. They stay up. Get up early. All those lifestyle factors are typically passed down, and a lot of times these are recipes that are being passed down that people don't realize. And so that weak link is where that body stores its excess. So if you've got breast cancer, you store in the breast. If you've got cervical cancer, your body tends to dump trash through the cervix, and of your cycles, and you're stored in the hormone and the pelvic organs. If you're a male and you got prostate in the upline, you might find that you got to constantly be looking at your mineral loading, and what does zinc look like for you? What does magnesium look like for you? And because if you don't have these minerals in high concentration, your body's ability to detox drastically goes down. And so what do we need for minerals? We need calcium and magnesium and iodine and manganese. We need different a robust variety of saturation of minerals to help escort these toxins out of the body. And so if you've got a dementia or Alzheimer's in your upline, that's where your body is typically storing the toxins. I was having this discussion with a patient the other day. They go, why would your son need to detox? You talk about him fasting, and he's like 11. You talk about him doing a detox, and, he's, under 12. He's not even hit puberty yet. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I said, so let me maybe try to give you an analogy. If you bought a new car, do you just assume that you're never going to have to do upkeep on it? You never need to rotate those tires and never need to go get an oil change? You're like, no, of course I would do that. Okay. So just because he's newer to the world for, 11 years in, doesn't mean that he doesn't need to do management and upkeep on his body. Doesn't mean that he doesn't need to, take care of his liver and give his digestive tract a break. Now, what if he never has to be as extreme as I had to be, with my diet? Because I was 55 pounds overweight. I had to be real extreme in pulling stuff out of my diet, when I was 15. Maybe he never has to take protein out of his detox programs because he does enough detoxing throughout the year and enough fasting throughout the year where he's not, one, addicted to food, and two, he's slowly all the time pushing his brain to recognize, hey, I can't have that for right now. I go without that carbohydrate or that refined, flour or that additive or that processed food. If he's not indulging in those types of things on the regular, haphazardly, unconsciously, just putting food in his pie hole because that's what he sees modeled before him. Well, what if he's now able to maximize brain IQ? What if he's able to maximize energy and agility and athletics? What if he's able to maximize his ability to think in school and to rationalize logically ideas and debate healthily and not be easily agitated, not be easily angered? You know what I mean? What if that's the picture of health we're trying to build? And I don't think people realize that food has that much of an impact on them. I don't think they realize that toxins can cause the opposite, cause you to be a poor student, to cause you to have brain fatigue on the job. You're not able to get up in the morning. You're showing up late. You're unable to fall asleep at night. You're getting restless during the day, easily agitated. Somebody flips, by you on the roadway and it startles you and you completely go into a road rage moment, whatever the thing is, those are signs and symptoms of, one, toxicity. Those are signs and symptoms of nutritional deficiency. And that is what's driving disease. And so when we look at, there's more than 2,500 chemical substances are intentionally added to food to modify flavor, color, stability, texture, and or cost. So let me say that again. More than 2,500 chemical substances are intentionally added to the food. So in addition to that, an estimated 12,000 substances are used in such a way that they may unintentionally enter the food supply. So now we've got, 14,500 different chemical substances that are potentially, intentionally, and unintentionally in your food. And this is like National Institutes of Health research, guys. I mean, this isn't like I'm just making up stats. Like, we are definitely eating make-believe food more often than we realize or even want to admit. That's why supporting your local farmers, or going to your local farmers market, or going to the Natural Livings or the Irma's Nutrition stores that have vetted out, companies that sell clean, organic produce, clean, organic, herbs or nutrients or food substrates. Man, those are places we need to be supporting. And so I'm always looking at ways to just minimize those chemicals. Like, my kids, somebody exposed them to ramen noodles. Oh my gosh, you can only imagine.
From the bag?
You know it. And
99 cents, maybe like 39, I'm not sure.
And they keep talking ramen, and I'm like, surely we're not talking about the same ramen like poor broke college students are eating, right?
Those were the days.
Those were the days. And so I'm like, all right, so honey, what is this story, And so she goes, don't worry, we found ones with no MSG, that doesn't have the enriched flour, that doesn't have the partially hydrogenated oil. And I'm like, okay.
That's the best part.
I mean, and I'm like, this is good news.
Right,
we're not blowing out my kids' neurons. I can handle this. Don't panic, Chapa. And so this is the thing, but if you might not even realize this, like going back to that conversation of endocrine hormonal disruptors and chemicals, right? How many times do you go through the fast food line and you smell the French fries once you got them in your car, right? You reach over and you grab you a fry or two, right? Nobody's going to notice that there's one or two missing.
I finish mine and everybody else is in the car, and my wife gets mad.
But watch this. Yeah. What if you reached in there and you grabbed one, and then they're kind of fiddling around the window, and then they give you the little receipt, right? So they found that BPA from receipts seeped into participants' skin dramatically after they had the French fry oil applied to their hand. So if you're tinkering around with that thermal paper receipt, that thermal paper receipt is putting a chemical that is known to cause cancer more rapidly into your body at a higher concentration if you had a French fry beforehand. Well, I would venture to guess that, if we put those types of oils in, what's going on? What it is, I think, is those oils are sticky, and those oils are tacky, and those oils are hard for your body to process. And so it slows down your body's manufacturing facility. It has to figure out how to do a turnaround on what am I going to do with that oily substance, especially if you ate it. Now, because the same tissue that you look at on this radio and you look at me and you see my skin, or I see, your skin, the same lining, that epithelial tissue lines your digestive tract. And so there's a similar operation in absorbability. And so when we put the Frenchy fries in and the partially hydrogenated oil, laden food in, the MSGs and the high fructose corn syrups, all those what we call 4 deadly food additives, when we put those into our body now has to digest and assimilate from whatever you put in there. Can I use any of that stuff? But your body's also compartmentalizing and saying, okay, well, in addition to that, now I've got several issues. I got this chemical and that chemical and this one. This one causes the brain threat. We got to protect the brain. And now the body's using your mental bandwidth to deal with internal issues instead of focusing on their work at hand. And now we wonder why little Johnny struggles in school because, he ate donuts and kolaches before he got to school. And now all of a sudden, his brain's not working because his body's dealing with the chemicals that are in his food instead of focusing on the studies at hand and arithmetic that he's got to get done. Does that make sense?
It does.
And
yes.
so what happens is you start to hear this message and you go, wow, toxins, anything my body can't use. I lose minerals every time I consume toxins. So that's not good. So now I've got a toxicity problem built up. I got a mineral deficit I got to overcome. And now I've learned, and Dr. Chapa was saying that minerals are God's tranquilizers, and they help my body to be calm, cool, and collected so that I'm not, road raging and agitated and mad at my teachers, or, because this goes to all aspects of life. I mean, every one of us deal with things that upset us, but how you handle those challenges determines how successful you're going to be. And if you're somebody that's flying off the handle and bent out of shape and bad attitude, you're going to find that you're going to get more of the same. But what I learned is that if we can, one day my wife and my son were kind of having some challenges in school, and it's because he was being a boy and he was making all these little weird boy noises and he was squirming and but he was doing his work. But the phone call I got sounded like his attitude was bad, so I challenged him on his attitude, and he goes, and he literally stopped and he said, Mom, I mean, am I having? Is my attitude bad? Like and he legitimately didn't think it was. He wasn't being mean about it. And what I realized is Mom needed minerals, because the little noises and stuff was making it hard for her to concentrate. We needed to slow her thinking down, so we had her go load up on minerals, and that allowed her fuse, if you will, and tolerance scale to enhance. Well, the same with him. We made him do minerals too, because typically when we're gonna, if me and my wife are, if we sense that either one of us are on edge, we'll slide a bottle of Nevaton, which is Shatav, skullcap, saffron, and St. John's, over to each other.
You ever do it passive aggressively?
Yes, of course.
Just like slide it over there and be like, look at him like this.
But here's the rule: like
Right.
if you do that, she will honor and take the pill, but she also slides it right back, and guess who's got to take it too?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we both do it together. It's a do it together thing. So if we're passive aggressive, we both got to do it. If it's legitimate, like, hey, maybe we should, you seem a little on edge. Hey, I'll take it with you. Like, either way, we're both going to be, sharing in the therapy, because at the end of the day, we don't want to come across passive aggressive. We want the change. We want the switch. We want to be more productive, right? We don't want to be in the decline. And we just don't realize that toxins from the environment, toxins from the air, toxins from the water, toxins from the food, all add up. They accumulate. And when they accumulate and your body can't get rid of them for whatever reason, okay, that's why we start stepping into this realm of detoxification, because the sad American diet has proven to be low in omega-3s, which are your non-inflammatory fats, and high in inflammatory fats. So now the cell membranes are on fire. We have a test that we run called an omega quant test that can measure inflammation and how much brain inflammation you have, fire, how much cardiovascular inflammation or fire do you have, how many firefighters are on call, that have to go out and fight these fires. So recognizing that there are tools to measure why you're short fused, why your hormones are disrupted, why your GI tract is a wreck, why you don't handle stress well. There's answers, and sometimes we have to go really slow. I have a gentleman that we literally had to start with just applying essential oils and a few herbal creams to the topically on his body, because his digestion was so backed up, his liver was so overworked, that we had to come in a little bit slower to, if you will, tenderize his visceral core, his spleen, which filters the blood, his kidneys, which filter the blood, his digestive tract, which eliminates waste, his liver, which eliminates, and converts fat-soluble compounds into water-soluble that you can pee out, poop out, sweat out, breathe out. And so we had to slow his process down to a point where we were only applying oils and creams for the first 2 weeks. And that was an interesting kind of figure out, because he had already been to like 3 or 4 other doctors that were called themselves like me. And the reality is they gave up on him because they got frustrated because he wouldn't do the work. Well, he wasn't doing the work because every time he would take a supplement, he would have an enhanced metabolic push, and his body couldn't tolerate it. So we had to go slow enough that his body could keep up with the elimination process, but fast enough to get some kind of change. Does that make sense? And now back pain's gone. Now belly pain and tension in his abdomen's gone. We're now able to start adding a nutrient or two, like an essential fatty acid, a high-dose omega-3 product that we call Omega Force, that literally will support every tissue, every cell, every gland in the body. So if there was one thing that you got out of today's talk, take essential fatty acids. We use ours called Omega Force. We love it. It's a reesterified triglyceride. It is very friendly to the cell structure of every tissue, brain cell in your body, heart cell in your body, digestive repair system. I mean, it affects everything, and we want people to see, the power of essential fatty acid working, for them. And so we're constantly not just focused at Living Well on removing sources of chemicals. We're also looking at replenishing the deficits that you are carrying, whether it's a vitamin, a mineral, or essential fat. And we can test all that stuff out because we know that minerals drive the process and your body's lacking in minerals. We know that detoxification is a must, which is why we're doing detox again in September, even in the mucks of crazy. You know what I mean? And people are loving it. I'm so proud of the families. I've got families that have lost, dads that have lost 12 pounds. I've got moms that have lost 8 pounds. The kids are, eating clean and they're feeling good, and they're doing better in school. They're less, squirmy and wormy. But they're also the kids are recognizing the gift of like saying no to certain foods. The kids are seeing the value of food is medicine, not just a free-for-all, eat anything I want just because it's seafood, I see it and I eat it.
I want to read a couple comments if that's okay. This is from Mary. She said, come see us at Natural Living Co-op and Cafe. We have all the natural herbal ingredients for teas. I don't even know what that word is. Tinctures and fresh organic veggies for juicing, which I have been natural living, and it is awesome. What is that, Dr. Chapa?
What's what?
TINCTURES.
They're just herbal tinctures. Like we sell like different herbal blends that are
okay.
That are like, for example, let's say my INF Fighter, people know that product, and it's got echinacea in it, right? It's got chaparral in it, a desert hardy herb in it, and anything that grow in the desert is very hardy, and so when we take that, it enhances the hardiness of our own cells. And it can help our body purge different types of infections that it's exposed to, because bacteria are just like little ants. They don't like getting stepped on. They don't like getting peed on. They don't like getting watered. They don't like, they look for high ground. They look for easy environments to live in. And so if you are putting in different types of herbal liquid tinctures, and what winds up happening is the body will flush and cleanse different toxins and infections that you might have a burden of. And many people don't realize it, but you are walking around right now with a accumulation of immunological burdens, whether bacterial, whether viral, whether parasitic, fungal, and they might have a little bit of an upper hand in their overgrowth. And if we can help the body their work with getting rid of those things, well, that's just one less burden your body's carrying. And now your body can focus on the contaminated air that you're breathing. And the less burdens that your body has to deal with, the more energy your body has, the more vitality that it'll have, the more productivity you'll get through the day, the more hours, productive hours you'll put into a day. And I think that is the thing that we've got to really focus on, is to see that it's your life, your health, your choice. You can make change right now, today, in order to see a better version of you tomorrow. And you can't really, you'll never be able to compare. I know if there was another me that just lived, freelance and didn't care, and indulged in all the wrong foods, I would be, 100 pounds overweight. I would probably have 2 or 3 at 40 years old medications, maybe more. I'd be well on my way to following in my own father's footsteps, at dying an early death at 53. And that's one of my, I think, secret motivations for my own self is now, I I would like to stick around a little bit for my kids. I would like to be outlive my bride, and so that she doesn't have to be widowed. Like I know what that pain looks like. I know what that pain feels like. And so when I have dads come into my office, people don't know this all the time about me, but like underneath it all, I'm after fathers. Because a home without a father is typically not as good compared to a home with a father. We need the men in the house. We need these men in the house to be healthy. We need these men in the house to be thinking and to be leading and to be God-fearing. I mean, there's just so many wonderful attributes, and not that the moms are not valued, because that's not at all true at all. I know that there's no way I could do what I do without having my best friend Tiffany with me, alongside me in the trenches, and us working through the challenges, and us figuring out what are we going to feed our kids. How often are we going to go out? How often are we going to allow junk food to come into their lives? And what's the message that we're going to consistently teach them, day in and day out while we have them? Because they're only here for a blink of an eye, and then we've got to train them. Hey, what do you do? I was asking Kinley the other day. She was telling me about a friend of hers that was having belly pain, and I said, "Hey, what do you do if you have belly pain?" "Oh, chamomile marshmallow." And I'm like, "Perfect." That's one of my herbal tinctures. That's the first herbal tincture that we ever used at Living Well, is liquid chamomile marshmallow, and people always mistakenly think that marshmallows are like the white fluffy things, but this is actually a root, and it just happens to be a little bit sweet, and it blends well with chamomile, and they are super anti-infective, but super nourishing and soothing to the gut lining. And if you've got an upset tummy, you can go chamomile marshmallow all day long. Road trips, car sickness, airplane sickness, travel sickness. You constantly just don't want to have nausea or diarrhea, vomiting, anything like that. Chamomile marshmallow is your friend. It's amazing. And it's because of the bitters that we don't have in the sad American diet, compared to the bitters that I'm trying to teach people to indulge in and exercise the bitter palate. Because you've got to exercise this palate and get our sugar less, our salts less, that the bitters need to be there and the sours need to be there. So when you have all your bitters, your palates working, then you have a texture or a savory palate that you can develop. And that is where you really start indulging and engaging in food, and you realize, hey, spices are amazing. Textures are amazing, and you can have fun with food again.
Here's a comment, and this is from your team, Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center on Facebook. Said many times genetics give you a recipe, but if you make a different decision than your family who has the same recipe, you can get different results. Genetics is not a life sentence. And I thought that was a great comment. We were talking about that earlier. Here's another comment. It's a question from Karen. She wants to know, and we were talking about skillets, about cast iron skillets. Is that better than I guess some of the other ones, the coated ones?
So is she saying
she's asking if it's okay, because you were saying that not the nonstick.
Yeah, like
the
when you buy like
steel.
those Teflon type nonstick skillets, they'll actually say in the fine print of their paperwork, like these can kill your birds. So like if you're a bird lover, or if you know anything about taking care of parakeets or different types of parrots in your home. You wouldn't want to use Teflon and your bird be in the same room, because the air particles can kill the bird. They're chemical toxins that are released. So therefore, that stuff is being released into your food, driving chemical toxicity up, causing maybe not a fast death because you're bigger than the bird, you have better filtration systems than the bird, but what if over time that's what's causing your fibromyalgia, which is pain all throughout your body? That's exhaustive, chronic fatigue, adrenal fatigue. What if it's driving your cancer? What if it's driving your degeneration process, your inflammation process? What if it's the cause of your headaches? Could it be that simple? And a lot of times when you just speaking to headaches real quick, toxicity wise, you'll see toxic headaches affect the temples and like a little band of pressure, like a sweat band of pressure around the head, like your head's in a vice. And those are typical signs and symptoms of toxicity, that your body is struggling with a toxic-based burden, and it's showing up in the head, in the temples, and or a band of pressure around the head.
So is the cast iron going to be a better option?
Oh, sorry. And then the cast iron is definitely a better option unless you have, you should always know your blood levels and look at your serum iron, your serum ferritin, and see what your levels are doing. We might have to use some of these different types of. They sell a glass enameled iron core. They sell different types of stainless steel with an iron core, so you still get that iron-like effect. But I definitely have these conversations. If people have issues with metal and they constantly are testing for metals and they can't seem to get the metals to go out, we definitely go to their cookware and start changing the type of cookware that they're using. And we'll use, I've used everything from stainless over to glass, in order to help, or stone even in some cases. And so we just look for different tools. And so I still have an iron skillet. And we still use it for certain types of dishes. But I typically gravitate towards the stainless steel. I think it's a Salad Master that I got at my wedding 15 years ago.
And it still works. So right now it's 9:59. This is KHEARadio.com, 99.5 FM. Dr. Aaron Chapa here in studio. We have a couple minutes left just talking about life on the detox, talking about chemicals, what that does to your body and how we can get them out.
Well, and on that note, just as a quick reminder, since we're shutting it down, we on the detox, we're always looking for ways to help your liver, your kidneys, your lymphatics get rid of what it needs to get rid of. The liver, helps metabolize hormones. It helps for digestion, bile flow. The kidneys filter out, 120 to 150 pints of blood throughout the day. It balances out pH, their energy resources, and your lymphatics, being that they have no pump, they need to be constantly, pushed. And so the healthier your overall detox channels are, the better your body has a chance to get rid of toxins that you're exposed to, anything that your body cannot use more effectively. So we want to be looking, if you have symptom patterns of hormone issues or migraines or headaches or blood pressure challenges or digestive issues, sleep issues, whatever, one of the things that we want to make sure you do is incorporate a Living Well Ultimate Detox program at 42 days a year. That's one of the things that we focus on. And then, of course, as a reminder, for those that are interested in our open house this evening, it starts at 6, and I think we're going to be opening the doors a little earlier at 5:30, and we're going to have 10% off coupon for those that come out and support us. You'll get an opportunity to interact with the laser. We'll be doing some demos. We'll be having some giveaways. It's going to be a fun event. We look forward to people coming out and seeing us this evening. Rain, sleet, or snow, we'll be there. And so we're really excited, and we want people to have fun with us and know that we want to be your health and wellness resource all throughout the ages. We know that your kids need us, you need us, your family upline need us, and as you continue down your health journey, remember, it's your life, it's your health, it's your choice. So make sure that you choose wisely today.
This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. Coming up next is Fellowship Creative. Bye, Facebook. Y'all be blessed. Have a good day. And don't forget, share this out. Tag a friend. Let's spread some good news. You can still do it right now.